Yo, what's up guys? Coach Geetzer here, and in this video we're going to be talking about what's in the meta for November 2025. Now, my tier list is going to go over every part that I believe is meta relevant for the 3-on-3 format. So if for those of you that play other formats like WBO deck or 1-on-1, this tier list isn't going to be perfect, but it probably will be pretty close. I can't speak to those of you playing in things like the Infinity Stadium right now. That might drastically change this list. But for those of you playing in the standard base stadium, it'll probably be at least close for you guys. If there's anything specific and I want to bring up a different battle format and things like that, I will if I think it's relevant. But most likely we'll stick to 3-on-3 only. Um, my tier lists are set up a little differently compared to the standard lettering system. So instead of S, A, B tiers like that, we're going to have staple pick. The staple pick tier is going to be the things that are defining the meta, that see the most play, that are like the top of their type and things like that. Um, strong pick is going to be the parts that are still very good. They're just not the absolute top of the metagame. I would recommend any of the parts here in this tier for you to use in a tournament, and especially if you're trying to win. Um, the outclass tier is for parts that are still good, but they don't do as good of a job as the things above them. So they might not be as strong for attack or things like that, but they're still serviceable. They're not complete like throws for the game. Um, and lastly, we have the for fun tier. The for fun tier is going to be for everything else that isn't very meta relevant anymore. Uh, Beyblade X is a game, so the most important thing is having fun. So if you have a part that you really like using, I would say use that if it gives you the most joy while you're playing the game instead of worrying about meta viability. If you have fun playing the meta stuff, then do it. But if you don't, stick to what gives you the most enjoyment in the game so you don't burn out and things like that. Like I said, it's a game, so if you don't enjoy playing, what's the point? I'm gonna put a picture of the for fun tier up now in the interest of time. There's so many parts in Beyblade X, and if I want this video to be a reasonable amount of time, I just have to do it this way. If you have a question about why a certain part is in the for fun tier, just drop it down below. I'll make sure I respond. Now, without further ado, let's get into the blades. All right, so for the blades, I'm going to start a little out of order than what I have here. And that's just because of the way the 3-on-3 format has evolved over time. The format's gotten a lot more narrow, and because of that, we don't have a lot of staple picks. The format is basically revolving around these two blades, which are going to be Shark Scale. Shark Scale is definitely the best blade in the game right now. It's just so good at everything. You put it on an attack setup, it has great attack, it has great stamina. You can use it on stamina setups, and it still does very well. Shark Scale is also very good into all the other attack types in the game right now. It doesn't really feel like it has a bad matchup. All its matchups feel at least 50-50, and that's just incredible for Beyblade X. It's really tough to find. We haven't really had too many parts that feel that way. Um, the other pillar of the format right now is Wizard Rod. Wizard Rod is a little worse, I would say, than Shark Scale. If I had to pick one blade only to use, I would use Shark Scale before I use Wizard Rod. Shark Scale just does a lot more. Uh, Wizard Rod is still very consistent though, especially on Hexa. That's just the most popular build right now. I think it's a bit better than using Ball. But Rod Ball, Rod Free Ball, things like that are still pretty good as well. So Wizard Rod and Shark Scale are occupying the staple pick tier. And the way a lot of the competitive decks for 3-on-3 are being built right now are you'll see one Shark Scale, one Wizard Rod, most of the time on Hexa, and then the third combo is just whatever else that you want to play. And most of the time, this third combo, the way you pick it is going to be you're going to try to counterpick against your opponent's third combo that you think they're going to pick. and you also want to have a decent matchup into either the rod or the shark scale. Um, because if you don't have a good matchup into one of those two, you're going to struggle with that third combo a lot of the time. So you want to make sure you at least have a 50-50 matchup with them. So that's the way that all these other blades are going to be discussed as like that third combo. So starting off with the blades we have here, this is just a little fun part we have here, which is Night Shield, and this is only for the newest mold of Night Shield that is 35 grams. I'm gonna put it at outclass. It's probably the lowest outclass blade that I'll put here. And like I said, this is only for the 35-gram mold. If you don't have this mold, this is instantly in for fun and it's really bad. But if you have the 35-gram mold, it's okay on like stamina or defense setups. Um, Definitely not the worst thing you can be playing, but um, it definitely isn't a strong pick or anything like that. It's just for fun. Decent defensively, but stamina is a little lacking, things like that. Phoenix Wing is a strong pick. Phoenix Wing does struggle a lot with the other attack types in the metagame right now, but it's pretty good into Wizard Rod Hexa, and it's really good into like CX combos. So if you think you're going to play against a lot of those, uh, Phoenix Wing is really strong against them. It gets really solid hits because they're taller, and most of them don't have any kind of sloped edges on them or anything. So Phoenix Wing can really get a strong hit into them. It really struggles against Shark Scale though. That's why I can't put it any higher. Um, but as your third combo, it's not the worst. You just have to be really selective into what meta games you're playing this into. If your area has a lot of other attack types, I would not recommend this at all. Tyranno Beat is outclassed. Still okay, decent weight. The shape is alright, but does struggle with Shark Scale. Um, Against some of the other CX bays that are a lot heavier than it, it can struggle as well. Its attack isn't the best for, or its shape isn't the best for attack, so it really struggles against like Rod, Hex, and things like that. So it's going to go in the outclass tier. Not the worst thing you can be playing, but definitely slowly seeing its way out of the meta. Dragoon with Elevate is gonna go in the outclass tier for me as well. This might surprise some people. I know some areas still really like this combo, but for me, it's not worth the risk anymore. It really struggles to beat Shark Scale. You can survive the early game against Shark Scale. You won't like survive the over finish, survive the extreme finish. Don't get bursted, and Shark Scale will destabilize you, and you'll still lose the outspin, and that's really annoying. I think there's a part that does its same role, but a bit better right now, and we'll get to it when we get there. So it's going to be outclassed. Still not terrible, but not as good as it used to be. I wouldn't recommend it entirely. Samurai Caliber is going to be outclassed as well. Decent weight. Shape is alright. Doesn't really protect the underside of it well. Loses the shark scale, loses to Wizard Rod pretty often as well. It's pretty tough to get some good use out of, but it's not the worst. Um, it could definitely see its way into the for fun tier later on, but right now it's like end of outclass tier with Night Shield tier. They both work on the similar combos, so not the worst, but not the best. Arrow Pegasus is definitely getting worse and worse with each release. It really struggles against Shark Scale, and it really only works against Wizard Rod if it's on like a 160. Otherwise, it struggles to kind of beat it. So if you're going up against Shark Scale, you want to not have 160 because it's too much recoil on the underside, but you need it to beat Rod, so you're kind of picking your poison on which one you want to lose to. Um, it's still alright into everything else that exists right now, but at a baseline, it's kind of like into a lot of stuff. Its matchup spread is kind of questionable right now, but it's so broad that it's alright. A lot of the other blades that are going to end up in strong pick are a bit more, I guess, polarized in their matchup spread, while Aero Pegasus is a bit more evened out. So it's going to go in the strong pick still, but definitely not as strong as it used to be. Not the strong pillar of the meta that it was before. So strong pick for Aero Pegasus. Silver Wolf is a strong pick. It has a decent matchup into Shark Scale, especially when you put it on like a low rush. or low orb, not low rush. Um, the putting it lower with the free spinning ring on the bottom just makes it really defend against Shark Scale pretty well. It can struggle against some smash attackers. Wizard Rod matchup can be kind of iffy depending on the setups and things like that, but still okay. Um, Next blade here we have is Nightmail, and unfortunately for me, it's only gonna be in the outclass tier now. It really struggles against Shark Scale. Um, it's not great against Wizard Rod Hexa, so it like really struggles to find a place in the meta that's worth it. So for now, it's going to be in the outclass tier, and honestly, I don't know if it'll ever find its way back higher up into the meta because of its weight. It's really tough now. Um, Next blade here, Wyvern, Hover, Wyvern. It's still a strong pick, and I really like it still. It's still pretty risky with the amount of recoil it has. Its Shark Scale matchup is pretty rough, but against Rod Hexa, it's decent. It's really good into a lot of the other blades in the strong pick tier. Great against Phoenix, great against Arrow Pegasus. So, still a strong pick, just really depends on what you think you're going to be going up against. That's what you can say about a lot of these blades here. Clock Mirage, I'm going to put it at the end of strong pick. And like I said, there's a blade that does Dragoon's job but better, and that is Clock Mirage. Clock Mirage can beat Rod Hexa, which Dragoon can't right now. Dragoon Elevate really struggles to beat Rod Hexa. It can beat Silver Wolf combos. It can beat Dragoon Elevate. And if you can live through the early game and the mid game against Shark Scale and the other attack types, you'll actually get that 1 point. You don't have to worry about losing the spin finish to Shark Scale in the late game. So if you do get to that point, you'll win your 1 point. It does burst a lot and it's really difficult to use, but against the right deck, it's really strong. It's almost like sometimes you'll pick Clock Mirage in your deck and it automatically wins you the matchup. Sometimes you'll pick it in your deck and it automatically loses the matchup for you. So it's really risky. That's why it's at the very bottom of strong pick, but I think it has a place in the meta. While we're on Clock Mirage, we're going to talk about the simple ratchets. Since I wouldn't recommend using a simple ratchet on anything that isn't Clock Mirage, the two that I think are the best are 455 and 385. And then 965 is still okay, but I don't like the height that it's at. It gets bursted really easily compared to the rest of these. 455, as long as the ratchet doesn't get hit, is really strong. It can outspin everything that you need it to, and it does it very reliably. But like I said, as long as the ratchet doesn't get hit, if the ratchet does get hit, you're probably gonna burst. These protrusions on 455 are too big. They're really easy to grab onto. 385 is a lot better into the attack matchups, but sometimes against like Rod Hexa, you'll struggle to destabilize them and you'll actually lose because you'll scrape at the end. But it has a better matchup against the attack types. So if I'm unsure of my opponent's deck, and I really need or really want to use Clock Mirage, I'll use 385. If I'm a bit more sure of my opponent's deck, I'll use 455. But these are the best two ratchets for Clock Mirage right now. And like I said, overall, I think Clock Mirage is a good pick in the right situations. For those of you that do play like WBO deck, it's probably really good for that format, being able to know what matchup your Clock Mirage is going into, or just having it in your deck to keep your opponent off of their stamina options is really nice. But for 3-on-3, it's really risky, but if you win the risk, it's really good. Both metal lock ships for CX are going to go in the staple pick for attack and defense CX combos. That extra weight in the middle of your bay helps keep it in the stadium or helps you apply stronger attacks to your opponent. So that extra weight is just good for that. It will lower your stamina a bit, so if you're using CX for stamina, I would not recommend the Metal Lock chip, but for attack and defense, absolutely use them if you have them. Blast is definitely the best CX blade. I'm going to put it in the strong pick tier. Um, Blast is just good at everything. It's the only like competitively viable CX Blade really. The rest of these three here are outclassed. So Flame, Hunt, and Might. They're all okay, but Blast just works on the same sets better. Blast has better attack than these three, better stamina than these three, arguably at least the same or better defense as well. So if you want to use a CX Blade, pick Blast first and then pick one of these three afterwards. Might is just best for the amount of weight that it has. Flame is actually really good with heavy specifically because of the fact that this makes up for the weight difference. It's a really strong defensive CX Blade, but stamina isn't really great. Hunt is kind of the same way. It's kind of good defensively. It's kind of good at everything, but not as good as Blast. I know people like have been trying Wolf Hunt on Low Rush. For me, it wasn't good enough, and for a lot of other people in tournament, it wasn't good enough. So I wouldn't totally recommend playing it. If you want to play two CX bays in a deck, you pick Blast plus one of these two, and these are probably all best on stationary setups. Blast is more versatile. For assist blades, we have Slash, which is alright, but Jaggy's a bit better, but I think both of these are outclassed by Heavy now. Heavy is that 50 height assist blade, and it has more weight to it. It also has like small little contact points on it that do some work, but mainly it's the weight that matters. So for all these CX blades, if you want to add weight to them, you use Heavy. If you want to use your CX blade for a more defensive fashion, you have Free and Wheel. Um, the way this works out, Free is definitely the most defensive out of the three and has the most stamina out of the three. Heavy is the best for more aggressive setups, in my opinion. And if you're in the middle, uh, Wheel is probably the best for Blast. But if you want to push your combo more one way or the other, you'll use one of the other two. Blast Wheel is still usable and still good. I'm not ready to say that Wheel is outclassed, but I think Free and Heavy are a bit better. So maybe this is a bit more accurate with the way that we would order it. And yeah, that's where I think all the blades are and assist blades and things like that. And next, we're gonna check out the ratchets. Now for ratchets, I'm just gonna go in order. Uh, we're going to start with 0, 60, and 70. They both have the same problem where these prongs just create a lot of recoil. So when you go up against an attack type, if these prongs get hit the wrong way, it's either going to burst or you're just going to get flung around, lose a lot of stamina that way. Or late game, you're going to scrape on these prongs and you're just going to kill your remaining bits of stamina and lose a lot of spin finishes that way. Um, in stamina matchups where one blade is on 0 and the other is on some other style of ratchet, when it gets to that late game, that scraping just kills them. So I wouldn't recommend these unless you're using it on something aggressive, and even then, I think there's things that are better than that. But if you really want that big chunk of weight, 0 is alright for that. I think 7 is a bit better for that use, but if you don't have anything else, zeros are all right. Next ratchet here is 160, and I typically don't put a ratchet in the staple pick tier, but for 160, I'm going to make that exception and put it up here. 160 just kind of finds its way into like every deck. I know it's the most popular way to play Wizard Rod Hex right now. Um, having the ability to bounce out of the pocket is nice. Um, having the ability to either balance out different blades or just add extra attack power to them is really useful as well. So 160 is just really strong. 170 is also pretty good. Not as good because it's at that 70 height. Limits the amount of bits you can use on it, but still pretty good to have. Lets you get two ones in the same deck or something like that. Typically, that's when you'll use it. Um, Next ratchet we have is 360. 360 is still alright. Still pretty good for stamina. Good for some blades like Phoenix Wing and things like that. 370s is the same thing but worse. One or not one. 560 I think has definitely gotten worse. I'm gonna put it in the outclass tier. I don't see a reason to pick this over a lot of other ratchets that are available right now. But still alright, still decent weight. I'm sure we'll have a blade come out eventually where 560 is just better on, but for now I'm gonna put 560 in outclassed. Like I said, still a alright choice, but there's a lot more ratchets that are more viable. Um, 660 is gonna go into the strong pick tier. It's my favorite choice for Rod Hexa right now. Gives you the advantage over the 160 version of the combo. It allows you to get enough stamina to even beat Rod Ball or other combos on Ball like Shark Scale, like Low Orb or Silver Wolf, things like that. Still decent defensively. The only issue is the burst risk is a bit higher with 6, but it's not terrible. 670 is outclassed. It's just worse than 660. Um, 770 or 760 is still strong. Like I said, I prefer this if you really want to add a lot of weight to your combo over 0. Less recoil, um, better LAD. 770 is definitely the same thing but worse. 960 is very strong still. Definitely a strong pick, probably at the top or pretty close to the top of the strong picks. Still the best ratchet for Hover Wyvern, in my opinion. It does really well on all of your CX combos as well. Because a lot of the assist blades don't protect your ratchet, you have to pick a ratchet that has good burst resistance. So 960 is the best for that. Um, so we also have 970. Um, I know a lot of these other 70 height ratchets, I said they're just the same thing but worse. I think 970 is a little better because of that burst resistance. In one of the adjustments we've seen happen in Asia when it comes to their combos, especially their blast combos, they've been placing their combos on 970 instead of 60. And this is an adjustment to put yourself 1 millimeter higher to have a better shark scale matchup. And I think it's really smart. It's an interesting change that they've made. And I think it's definitely worth considering. I wouldn't do it for things like Hover Wyvern and things like that. It would only make this choice for my more stationary blast combos. But it's definitely interesting, and I think it's strong enough to put in strong pick. Um, if you think that people are going to be playing a lot of Shark Scale, especially if they're playing Shark Scale on like low rush on 60 height or lower, I would definitely consider doing this. You're going to lose out on some stamina, but typically Blast is going to lose to Wizard Rod anyway, so you're almost not worried about that stamina loss. You'll just take them better defense. So for now, I think 970 is definitely a strong pick. I need to test it out a bit more, but I think this is something to at least think about. It's definitely stronger than all the other 70 height ratchets I have mentioned here, other than 170. So that's where we're sitting with ratchets. Next for bits, I have all the attack and like balance style bits up here. Um, Low rush and rush are just the best attack bits in the game right now. I don't see a reason to pick these or not pick these over some of these other bits here first. Typically, rush and low rush just use launch tech very well. They have a lot of stamina, and when you're pairing all this stamina that these bits give you with like Shark Scale and things like that, you're able to outspin all sorts of different things. You can win matchups you don't think you're going to win by spin finish. So rush and low rush are just the best first attack. Low flat is outclassed for sure. This could almost be dropped into for fun tier. Same thing with under flat. They're just not very controllable. They don't have a lot of stamina, and that low height doesn't really benefit you a lot. So not really worth picking right now. Like I said, these could almost get dropped into for fun. Level right now doesn't really have a great place in the metagame right now. Before, when Dragoon Elevate saw more play, it gave you a aggressive option that also had great LAD. But for now, I'm gonna drop it into the outclass tier. This could come back in the future, especially with Meteor Dragoon on the horizon. This could see more play again if that blade is meta. Point is still alright, still pretty strong, great stamina, a little tricky to use. I think Kick is the better, like, stamina attack hybrid kind of bit. Kick has incredible stamina, great at using launch tech. It's a bit hard to use though, so I wouldn't give this to somebody that's starting out. It's very easy to mess up your launches with this and then self-extreme and things like that. So, but that stamina you get from it is incredible. Uh, Trans kick is definitely worse than kick. Um, if you can keep this away from the extreme rail, it's pretty good. But if the second it hits the rail, it's gonna start ping ponging off the extreme line and stuff like that. It doesn't want to catch properly and just doesn't uh, keep its stamina anymore. But if you can keep it away from that X rail, it's pretty strong for like more mobile defense builds. Tapered, I'll put it at the very top of Outclass. It could maybe be a strong pick. I don't like that this doesn't stand itself back up as well as Kick does. It's still alright for stamina though, but like I said, it falls over pretty easily and doesn't get itself back up, and that's going to kill your stamina at times. So Kick is definitely better, but Taper is still a decent pick. Um, Ball is pretty good for stamina still. Low Orb is a bit better, I would think, right now because of Shark Scale. Low Orb just puts you that 1 millimeter shorter, makes it harder for Shark Scale and Hover Wyvern to get under you. So protects your Ratchet, uh, has really good KO defense. So Low Orb is one of the better stamina options right now. Orb is the same thing but worse. Free Ball's decent as well. Good defensively. Doesn't have as much stamina as a regular ball bit or low orb, but that free spinning can keep you from self-extreming, self-over-finishing, things like that. So free ball still has its uses, um, but I wouldn't say it's outclassed yet. I still think it has a place. I know Shark free ball is pretty popular as well, so we'll put it in the strong pick. Hexa is definitely staple pick for sure. It's best defense bit in the game still. Um, Very good stamina, especially with a newer kick or Hexa. Um, so yeah, best defense, great stamina, great LAD, just great all around for your stationary builds. Under Needle, I'll put in Outclassed. It's good on Clock Mirage 455. I think Clock Mirage 455 is a bit better on Low Orb because it gives more movement. But if you're not great with launch tech and you want to play Clock Mirage, 455 Under Needle is as short as you possibly can be. Keeps you away from your opponent's attackers, from upper attacks, things like that. Still has enough stamina to outspin Wizard Rods and Silver Wolves, but that's about it. I wouldn't recommend Under Needle on anything else. Only for Clock Mirage 455. Uh, do not play this weird Hover Wyvern Under Needle combo that I've seen on like YouTube videos. It's not good. It's like a complete contradictory combo. So just don't use that. It's not good. Just don't. Last part we have to go over is operate. Operate's very interesting. In the metagame that we have right now, our strongest attack types are upper attackers. And when you're on operate with the ball mode is 80 height. So that keeps your blade away from them. And it also is very hard to actually gain any kind of lift on this ratchet bit hybrid thing. Um, there's not much for them to get under that's at a normal height, and this can help you defensively. It has some decent stamina, but there's these little bumps around the outside for the attack mode, and when those scrape against the stadium floor, it kills your stamina. but as long as your Beyblade stays upright, operate is actually pretty decent. I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'll put it at the end of strong pick. It does burst a little bit, but it's definitely interesting. I think it needs some more experimentation to be sure about where it actually sits in the metagame. But I've seen Shark operate, I've seen Rod operate, and those two combos are pretty interesting. Um, and yeah, that's where the tier list is right now. This is where I think the game is gonna sit. Um, if you're really trying your best to win at tournaments, make sure you're picking the majority of your parts from these two tiers up here. Um, leave any questions you have about any of the parts, any explanations I've given in this video in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer all of my or all of your guys' questions. Um, or maybe one of you guys watching the videos can also answer them. Um, thanks for watching through the video. Hopefully it's not too long, and I will catch you guys in the next one.